Hello my friends! Welcome to my channel, Lindy's Magpie Reads. If you're new here, I'm Lindy and I read a lot. I spend a lot of hours reading in a day, which is how I manage to read about roughly a book every day. I have eclectic tastes, so I read all kinds of books, and I've got 6 that I finished recently to tell you about today. Before I do that, I just want to let you know that I have mostly finished the trouser project, making a pair of trousers out of a thrifted linen tablecloth. They still need to be hemmed, but I can show you what they look like so far. I'm really happy with how they turned out. They have a comfortable elasticized waist and big pockets. And I've got biblio adventures to tell you about related to live theater. My sweetie and I went out 3 nights in a row to see live theater events. 2 of them were for the Skirts of Fire Festival, which happens every year here in Edmonton. It's a theater and multidisciplinary arts festival to feature and elevate the work of women. And so we saw The Space Between the Stars by Christine Lesiak, who is a local astrophysicist and actor. She wrote a play about a woman coming to terms with grief over the death of her son, and did it as an adaptation of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's The Little Prince. It was wonderful. We also saw The Shoe Project, in which a group of recent immigrants and refugees in Edmonton wrote about their experiences through the lens of a pair of shoes. And then they performed their pieces. Each one was about 600 words. Oh, it was so moving. It was great. And then we saw Joni Mitchell's Songs of a Prairie Girl, which is the story of her life through a whole bunch of her songs. And they had a bunch of different women portraying Joni at different stages in her life, kind of talking to each other, and this was great too. And if you don't know, our dog Joni is actually named for Joni Mitchell. We're big fans in this house. There's a quote by Joni Mitchell in this program that I really like. "The people who get the most out of art see themselves in it. They have an option. Either see yourself and your humanity in the work, or just equate it solely with the author. The richest way, the way to get the most out of it, is to see yourself in it." And I think that applies to literature as well as music. So, on to the books. First, I'm going to tell you about an audiobook, Pests: How Humans Create Animal Villains. It's by Bethany Brookshire, and the audiobook is read by Courtney Patterson. This is about humans and our attitudes towards certain animals that don't stay in the places where we think they should stay. The pests that she talks about include pigeons and coyotes and bears in North America, and cats and rabbits in Australia, and elephants in parts of Africa and Asia, and sparrows in China. She's got so much interesting information and a humorous way of conveying it. So it's a really enjoyable, thought-provoking book. If you like Mary Roach and her style, or Amy Stewart, I think that you'd really like Pests. Now, my channel is called Magpie Reads because I have such eclectic tastes, and magpies are known for being attracted to shiny new things. And also, Edmonton is considered the magpie capital of the world because we have so many magpies here. And I forgot to mention, many people consider magpies to be pests. This next book is about a magpie. Penguin the Magpie, the odd little bird who saved a family. It's by Cameron Bloom and Bradley Trevor Greive. Cameron Bloom is a photographer in Sydney, Australia. He and his wife Sam have 3 boys, and while the boys were still young, Sam was injured terribly and became paralyzed from the chest down. In this true story, we learn about how the family finding an injured fledgling Australian magpie and taking it home to care for it helped the whole family, and especially Sam, with her healing. The photographs in this book are simply stunning, and that's definitely my favorite part of this book. But it's also a little bit on the schmaltzy side. Here's a sample of the kind of writing that is a bit too much for me. We are all our journeys, hopes and dreams, clad in mortal wrapping paper, and angels come in all shapes and sizes. That being said, I found this extremely uplifting, and I'm so glad that Gloria Thompson talked about it on Shelley Swearingen's Superlative Sundays series. I will link that video below. Thanks, Gloria. Next up is a graphic novel from France, Bergères, Guerrières by Jonathan Garnier and Amélie Fléchais. Now, this is coming out in English a little bit later this year, so look for Shepherdess Warriors in July. It has a Celtic setting. It's about a group of women who, because their men have all gone off to war and haven't come back, they take charge, the women take charge of protecting their village and their flocks of sheep. And the story centers on this 10-year-old girl, Molly, and her friend, who's a boy who really wants to be one of the Shepherdess Warriors. A fun adventure for readers of all ages. And next up is another graphic novel, The Blue Road, a fable of migration. And it's by the Black Canadian poet Wayde Compton and the Filipino-Canadian artist April de la Noche Milne. The story is about a girl who has lived all alone. Her name's Lacuna, and she's forced to leave the great swamp of ink. She makes her way down a blue road that's a lot like the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz. She gets to a thicket of tickets and eventually a border guard at the rainbow border, and she's on her way to the Northern Kingdom. This girl is so resourceful and smart, and when she gets to the Northern Kingdom, she has more challenges. The art is so beautiful with these rich greens and blues and browns, and then oranges, scribbly marks. It's all kind of dreamy and full of wonder, and yet the serious obstacles that are placed in the path of immigrants are portrayed here. And I love the way that Lacuna manages to overcome whatever she faces. It's stunning, absolutely stunning. Joni? You're good. Next up is a middle grade Canadian novel. Oh, I should have mentioned Shepherdess Warriors is also for middle grade and older. Ghostlight by Kenneth Oppel is a children's horror story adventure. It's set in contemporary Toronto. There's an evil ghost that eats other ghosts and is planning on taking over the world, and a group of kids figure out, with the help of a ghost, how to combat this terrible situation. Very fun. It's a fat book, but it's a quick read, and I picked it up for my YA book club. I found it just a little bit slow at the beginning, but soon enough I was quite caught up in the story. So there are armies of ghosts all over. Some are very angry and some are not. Some of the ghosts are from the First Nation, the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation that occupied this space before Toronto came into existence. I won't give any spoilers about if those were angry ghosts or not. Because I read so many books at the same time, I sometimes find surprising correlations. And I've mentioned before that I've been reading one poem a day from this collection. When the light of the world was subdued, our songs came through. A Norton anthology of Native Nations poetry, edited by Joy Harjo. The poem that I read that matches this story, it's actually an excerpt from a speech by Chief Seattle written in 1858, and it was translated by Vi Hilbert. I'll just read one verse. At night, when the streets of your cities and villages will be silent and you think them deserted, they will throng with returning hosts that once filled and still love this beautiful land. The white man will never be alone. Let him be just and deal kindly with my people, for the dead are not powerless. And that was Chief Seattle. And now this is the last book that I'm going to tell you about. It's a classic, an essay by Václav Havel called The Power of the Powerless, translated by Paul Wilson from Czech. I heard about it from The Poptimist, a Canadian booktuber who doesn't post nearly often enough. He was talking about Celeste Ng's Our Missing Hearts. And in that novel, art is used in protest. And The Poptimist made the connection with how inspiring it is to think that an individual's effort can make a difference. You can watch his video. I will link it down below, get all the information. But I'm so glad that I decided to pick up this essay. It took me about 2 weeks to get through it, and it's not very long. It's only, 160 pages, something like that. And it's also available free online. Just Google it if you aren't able to access a print copy. Philosophy is slow going for me. I tend to have to read sentences more than once, and then the paragraph that they're in more than once in order to absorb it all. But so worthwhile, yes. And especially because I think it is still relevant today. It was written in 1978. Havel was not only criticizing the post-totalitarian system, the Soviet bloc, he also was critical of Western democracy. And what does freedom mean if it's just the freedom to be a materialistic culture? There's a lot more to it than that. But the idea that truth will overcome lies is a simple and encouraging message. Here's a sample. You do not become a dissident just because you decide one day to take up this most unusual career. You are thrown into it by your personal sense of responsibility, combined with a complex set of external circumstances. You are cast out of the existing structures and placed in a position of conflict with them. It begins as an attempt to do your work well and ends with being branded an enemy of the people. Those are the words of Václav Havel, who became the first president once Czechoslovakia became a democracy. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to your comments, as always, and I hope to see you again soon. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye for now.